Maggie and her brother Kyle had always loved hiking in the forest near their home. The allure of the towering trees, the symphony of birdsong, and the intoxicating scent of the wildflowers was a siren's song that they couldn't resist. Their love for the wilderness was like a shared secret, a bond that only they truly understood. Maggie was the bolder of the two, her adventurous spirit often leading them off the well-trodden paths and into the heart of the forest. Kyle, ever the cautious one, followed his sister, a trusty compass always in hand. Their hikes were tales of discovery, every journey a new chapter in their ever-growing book of adventures. One day their adventurous hearts decided to push further, to journey deeper into the forest than they ever had before, a decision that was born out of curiosity and the thirst for the unknown. They wanted to see what lay beyond the familiar trails, to uncover the secrets that the forest hid in its depths. At first, the forest was a picture of beauty. The air was sweet with the scent of wildflowers, and the distant chirping of the birds was a soothing melody. The trees stood tall and majestic, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze. It was a scene straight out of a storybook, a testament to nature's beauty. But as they ventured deeper, the forest began to change. The trees grew more twisted, their branches reaching out like gnarled hands. The once sweet air now held a hint of decay, and the comforting birdsong was replaced by an oppressive silence. It was as if the forest was trying to warn them, to tell them to turn back. But they didn't. They were too far gone, too deep into the heart of the forest to heed the warning signs. The path they had followed was now hidden by dense underbrush, the way back shrouded in mystery. "We should go back," Kyle said, glancing at the darkening sky. But they were lost, trapped in the forest that they had once loved. The beginning of their adventure had swiftly turned into the start of their nightmare. But when they turned to leave, the path they had followed was gone, replaced by dense underbrush and gnarled trees. Maggie's heart pounded in her chest like a drum in the silent forest, its rhythm echoing the fear that was beginning to creep up her spine. "We're lost," she whispered, a chill running down her back as her words hung heavy in the air. The silence of the forest was soon replaced by a sound that seemed to emanate from its very depths. A low, rhythmic chanting that was as haunting as it was mesmerizing. It was a melody that seemed to have been carried by the wind through the centuries, a song that spoke of ancient rituals and forgotten deities. The siblings stood frozen, their eyes wide with fear as they tried to locate the source of the sound. It was coming from all directions, surrounding them. The forest was no longer just a forest. It had become a living, breathing entity, its voice a hypnotic chant that seemed to seep into their very souls. The air around them grew colder, the scent of decay stronger. It was as though the forest was closing in on them, its hold tightening. As the chanting grew louder, they could see figures moving between the trees, their faces hidden behind masks made of bone. Their guttural voices echoed through the woods, adding to the chilling melody. "Run!" Maggie shouted, grabbing Kyle's hand as they sprinted through the woods. But the forest was relentless, its song of fear following them, growing louder and more insistent with every step they took. The chanting grew louder, accompanied by the sound of drums. The figures were closer now. The forest echoed with a terrifying cadence, an eerie rhythm that seemed to pulse with every beat of their hearts. The figures, shrouded in the gloom, bore masks of bone that glinted ominously in the scarce light filtering through the twisted trees. Their voices were a low, guttural chorus, chanting words that curdled the blood in their veins, words of an ancient language long forgotten by the world. The air grew thick, a miasma of decay and dread, the stench of old blood making it hard to breathe. The forest seemed to close in around them, the gnarled trees reaching out like twisted fingers, ensnaring and disorienting. Fear and desperation propelled them forward, their breaths ragged and hearts pounding like war drums in their chests. "Run!" There was no thought, no hesitation, only the primal instinct to flee, to escape the nightmare that chased them. Their feet pounded against the forest floor, a frantic rhythm to match the relentless beat of the drums. But no matter how fast they ran, the figures were always there, just out of reach. The glowing eyes of the bone masks watched them from the darkness, their haunting gaze filled with a predatory anticipation. They ran faster, but the figures were always just behind them, their glowing eyes watching from the darkness. Just when they thought they couldn't run any further, they burst through the tree line and into the safety of their yard. Their hearts pounded in their chests like wild drums, their breaths coming out in ragged gasps. The comforting familiarity of their yard was a stark contrast to the cold, eerie darkness of the woods they had just escaped from. It was like stepping out of a chilling nightmare into the comforting arms of reality. They stood there for a moment, trying to catch their breaths, their bodies shaking from the adrenaline and fear. The haunting chant still echoed in their ears, the glowing eyes of the watchers still imprinted in their minds. They realized then, the forest they had always loved was not just a place of beauty and tranquility, but also a dwelling for an ancient, sinister tribe. As they turned to look back at the trees, they knew the watchers were still out there, concealed in the darkness, lurking between the twisted branches and gnarled roots. They could almost feel the weight of their gaze, watching, waiting for their next unsuspecting victim. There was an unsettling silence, the air filled with an ominous sense of dread. The forest was no longer a place of refuge, but a domain of horror. A shiver ran down their spines as they locked the doors and pulled the curtains closed. The forest, their once beloved playground, had transformed into a terrifying labyrinth of the unknown. The adventure had ended, but the haunting memories lingered, a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurk in the shadows. Have you ever found yourself hopelessly lost in the woods? Beware. Stay vigilant, because there are terrifying, ancient tribe peoples in the woods that few have ever seen and lived to talk about. Their tale serves as a stark warning to all. Be careful when venturing into the unknown, for the woods are not always what they seem. For Maggie and Kyle, their innocent hike turned into a chilling adventure, a bone-rattling chronicle of their encounter with the Watchers.